So it's probably a good time to rehash and bring up a topic about this guy. Well, I guess I should point on this side here, Elon Musk, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. And the topic of conversation at the time was my statement that when he was invited to speak at West Point, my son's a 27 cadet there. And first of all, congratulations to the 28s that just got accepted on A Day. And then congratulations on the rings for our 25 firsties that just got their rings. I believe it was this weekend. I want to watch that ceremony later on today. But we had a conversation when we saw the headlines that it was reported that Musk was invited to speak there for, at the time, I wasn't really sure of what kind of a ceremony that was, convocation, whatever it is it was called. Apparently it was an awards ceremony, of which I will say I'm very proud of my son, who was one of several cadets that was recognized, let's say, for grades. So good job to him and all the other young men and young women that are doing their thing there at West Point academically, and all of the physical stuff that you guys have to do, and just it just seems exhausting sometimes. But the question was, should we feel a certain way when somebody like Elon Musk gets invited to speak to the cadets at West Point? And I'm saying this specifically to West Point because I was coming from a position to where I don't necessarily not care, but I trust enough that the leadership at West Point are bringing in the right people that are young men and women who are going to be tomorrow's leaders in the military. Need to hear from all sorts of people out there in society around the world. And these are all pretty much movers and shakers, people in the industry that are going to have an impact in our worldly lives, that we have to have a finger on the pulse if we are going to have a strong military for the future. And so whoever West Point decides to bring in to speak, I don't have an issue with any of them, nor do I think we should, because case in point, and while we're talking about this yet again, this weekend, it was determined by NASA that they're cutting Boeing loose in a sense that they're not going to rely on them to bring back the two astronauts. Boeing can't get their act together to bring the astronauts home safely in the terms that NASA requires, that they want to make sure it's done safely the right way. And they're like, look, Boeing, you're out, which is crazy how a lot of the just negative press, and rightly so, on Boeing in the last couple years, whoever is on the board and leading this company, what an absolute mess. So NASA's deciding, okay, it's going to be SpaceX and the Dragon capsule. I think in a few months are going to try to retrieve the astronauts. So this is the perfect example, and why I wanted to get on here today to kind of resurface what we were talking about. Now, whether or not you dislike Elon Musk right now, and we could probably say that those who don't like him a lot right now, that were very vocal and sent in some, whether or not they were messages to me in response to what I was saying, or I had a couple healthy discussions on Instagram and YouTube being against him. Here's the thing. everybody that was, not everybody, but a large percentage of the people that are angry or don't like Elon Musk were his biggest fans not even 6 or 7 years ago. And those that are on the message boards and in my comment section or had sent me messages that are all of a sudden huge proponents of Elon Musk and love Tesla and like to call the people that were upset about Elon Musk going to West Point to speak, calling everybody snowflakes. Well, 6 or 7 years ago, they were the snowflakes probably, and upset with Elon Musk and whatever he at the time believed or would say or whatever it is. So that kind of flip-flops over time, especially with somebody like Elon Musk, who, when you're one of the richest, most powerful men on the globe, you tend to have this inflated ego of yourself. And that, I don't think that's taken a side or not. I mean, I think it's pretty well stated. He's got a pretty healthy ego, that he just kind of does what he wants, whether or not that is good or bad, or you agree with it or not. It is what it is, and it is what happens. And the thing is, he is a unique case, right? Elon Musk is a unique case. There's not a lot of people like him, and especially that are the figureheads, the top person at very important companies that a lot of us rely on, especially in national security. Now we're talking SpaceX now is going to have to be the company to come in and retrieve those astronauts. There was something about the issue is that the suits that the astronauts wear for the Boeing Starliner are different than what you can wear for the Dragon capsule and SpaceX, and they connect and interact with the modules differently or something. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on it, which I'm not well versed in, but I do find it interesting. So this is a perfect example of why I was saying I want my son and all of those cadets to have a good exposure to people like this. And I know that there's even some somewhat friendly acquaintances of mine that I've met on social media over the 10, 15 years I've been on social media that were just upset or pissed. And I would say that I have no problems with Elon Musk speaking. But with this in particular, there comes a lot of, there's a lot of context that you have to factor in. There's a lot of nuance with Elon Musk and the companies that he has, that it is a necessity that we have access to him militarily, that we have access and exposure to him and his companies like SpaceX, Tesla, and there's a little conflict going on over in Ukraine right now, to where his company Starlink is very much in the mix between Ukraine, Western powers, NATO, and Russia right now. And so my question to the people that were upset about Elon Musk, personally, regardless of if you agree with him or not, he's making the game that we have to play in. He creates the board that we have to play in. And there's no better example of that right now than NASA having to turn to SpaceX to save the 2 astronauts in the next few months. Who else are you going to go to? So that's why I think it's important. Now, it can't just be everybody left and right as far as willy-nilly. You're not really considering who's coming in to talk to the cadets. But again, I think time has shown that the leadership there, and I'm learning this as I go. Again, I'm a 27 parent. It's taken me almost a full year just to figure out that they're not freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. I've got to call them firsties, but the firsties aren't freshmen; they're the seniors. And then you've got the plebes, the cows, and the juniors are called. I'm still working on a lot of stuff. Okay. But when it comes to certain things like Elon Musk, a person like Elon Musk, who what he says and does, he should obviously suffer the consequences for it, just like the rest of us. His behavior, whether you like it or not, should be held accountable just like the rest of us. But the rest of us don't run companies that can go save our astronauts in space in a couple of months. Most of us don't have companies that could determine the success or failure on the battlefield in Ukraine right now with Starlink. So this was the perfect example of why you have to take into context when somebody like Elon Musk is invited to speak to the cadets at West Point, why that's a good thing. You need the access. You want to hear from them. I would want to hear from somebody at Boeing speak. I mean, I don't know if it was a Q&A. I'm still looking for a video of Elon Musk there. I don't even know if he gave like a big speech or if he was just there for the awards of something. I haven't had a chance to talk to my son specifically about it, but I just know that he was there. But this is why it's very hard these days to find other like-minded people out there that can have a discussion on certain key events that are going on shaping the world. And having a healthy discussion and analyzing it from a 30,000 mile perspective, whatever that phrase is, 50,000 miles looking down, and breaking it down and not getting emotionally charged. Or right off the bat, you hear somebody's name and you run automatically to the two binary ends that we all supposedly have to pick between. So just the mention of Elon Musk right now, 2024, if it's anything positive said about him, anything positive, or the absence of negativity to him, you're a big fan of Musk. There's no in between. There's no gray areas. There's no perspective. There's no nuance to it. And unless you say something completely negative or you're absolutely against him. But there's a bigger picture that you have to figure out and analyze and reason with yourself and understand going forward the advantages of why we would have somebody like Elon Musk come to West Point to speak. You're going to have that happen. And I also asked the question to several people that came at me for not raising more of a question as to, well, they should or rescind the offer or not have him go there. Who wants to be responsible for being the police of not only who comes to West Point to speak, but anywhere in life? Now, the location's going to matter. Am I going to say the exact same thing for somebody like Elon Musk outside of West Point or in that particular case? It may change. It depends on the context of what we're talking about. But specifically for West Point, I don't understand the outrage that there was within my little circle of people that I see on here. And sometimes I'm just out here looking for other people that could just reasonably have a healthy conversation to break things down, because it is interesting. There are people out there that I follow, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, and they're all on, secret accounts or, backup accounts or something, to where I don't engage really, but I acknowledge and I appreciate the discussion points that they talk about with, I guess we can say, controversial issues, but they're people that I value, that they're doing the best that they can to talk about it and break things down without, again, running to your binary ends of left and right. It's hard finding those people in real life. If you do, that's great. I sound like Tony the Tiger there. It's great. It's almost impossible to have this kind of a discussion to where you break things down in an adult conversation, a reasonable and rational conversation online. Just look at the comment section of anything that is just deeper type topics. And I've come to the conclusion, I used to attribute a lot of the negativity to trolls, actual people, but trolls online when you go through the comment section. And I can go through it on my own comment section on just random nonsensical topics that I like to talk about that are just for fun. You get those troll type comments. And I used to think a vast majority of those are actual people that are just miserable in their lives. I am almost convinced right now that a high percentage into the 90s, 90% plus, are bots, rage bots, pushed out there and promoted by things that are a little bit bigger that I can understand. People that benefit from having this kind of negativity permeate through social media within our country and get people worked up. Why do I think that? Is because there's a lot of times, I try to ignore a lot of those comments, but I've done a little bit of a test. Now, I know a lot of those negative people, the bots, they're not going to watch this video. They're not going to come to the 18-minute mark of this video. But I think 99% of the ones that I responded back to never responded back to me. Now, and you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, we all know if we profile true trolls, whether they're online or people we know in real life, they have to have the last word, right? They have to be able to have the last word, and they're just itching for somebody to acknowledge them. I don't recall one account in the last few weeks that I have tested my theory to where I've replied to them and I've gotten no response whatsoever. If that was an actual person that's a troll, and they do exist, don't get me wrong, those people do exist, I would have gotten some kind of follow-up negativity feedback from them, because they have to have the last word. Now, I'll do another look-see on my comments maybe tonight. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially on YouTube for some reason. Instagram, TikTok, for the most part, you can kind of keep track of comments as they come through. But as soon as some of your content gets pushed back in time, And the way it's defaulted to using YouTube Studio and trying to find the latest comments, it's defaulted to things that you haven't commented on before. So you have to untoggle certain things to get the most recent comments of things that you may have commented on or gotten comments on before. It's not easy, trust me. But they haven't replied. So I think most of these negative comments have been from bots. But anyways, that's my thing. I don't have an issue. I want for my own kids, my two boys. Again, my one is a 27 at West Point. My youngest we just dropped him off at Ole Miss. He's doing the ROTC. Super proud of him as well. You can only be the protective mommy and daddy bird for so long to where you need to have them be exposed to as many things as possible. And then hopefully through the many years that they've kind of just been around you, that they know how to critically think for themselves and can figure things out for themselves. And it doesn't have to be the same conclusion, the same thoughts that you or I have. So that's why my thing is, it doesn't matter. And especially in the context of West Point and who they bring in, you can bring whoever. And I would want my son there to see for himself, to hear for himself, maybe to even have the opportunity to engage, interact, or ask questions for himself. But I'm certainly not going to be the one to be like, oh, rescind the invitation. He's a terrible person. He could be. He could absolutely be a terrible person. But within the military going forward, unfortunately, you have to have some connections in the shadows, or you guys know what I'm talking about. You have to be able to hear and talk and gather intelligence, hear from people themselves. And it shouldn't come from people like you and I, who we don't know any better. We don't know any better. We shouldn't be policing. I don't know. You let me know. What are your thoughts on it? I would love to find, even if it's one or two people that are just reasonable people that find something like this somewhat fascinating. I would love to hear your take on it. Put it down in the comments. Shoot me a message, which I don't think you can do on YouTube. I think you can do it on Instagram. I got several of them on Instagram when I posted the Elon Musk thing earlier on Instagram. You can't do messages on YouTube. Post it in the comments. I want, and it doesn't matter to me if you have a different take. I just want to see a reasonable, that you're coming from a good place, that you like a healthy discussion about it. I have no interest in wanting to just come on here and just rage bait certain things because you can. It's too easy. It's not any fun. If I wanted to get emotionally charged up about something, well, maybe let's talk about Star Wars. Mizzou football. I mean, I don't really get charged up emotionally on that kind of stuff, but you understand what I'm saying. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys are enjoying everything that you're seeing here on Tossing Salad Podcast Hub, which we've done a little cleaning up a bit in the last couple weeks and how we're doing things and content. Tossing Salad Podcast Hub that you're seeing here is kind of the catch-all for everything that we do, that we're interested in, that we love to talk about. Everything. If you're wanting to see and interact with anything and everything that we do, and it could come from tools and DIY, it could be records and music, movies, television, talking about West Point, talking about Elon Musk, talking about trashy TV shows. You can find it all here on the Tossing Solid Podcast Hub. But if you're only interested in, let's say, something like food and eats, you don't want to necessarily, see all the other extra stuff that we do here. I don't blame you. So what I did was created 4 separate sister channels to where if you're super interested in just you just want to see certain things, you can just subscribe there. So my food and eats people, TSP Food and Eats. We just set it up. We're converting some of our old videos over to where when you go to Food and Eats, all you're going to see is food stuff and me stuffing my fat face with certain things, recipes and some gardening stuff. If you're interested in the tool stuff that we do, the DIY and tool stuff, I'm big into that. I love my Milwaukee tools. I love the Milwaukee hacks that you can do at Home Depot and talking about and helping my brothers and sisters out there get a great deal on Milwaukee tools at Home Depot. If all you care about that, and that's all you want to see, TSP DIY channel is the one that you want to subscribe to. If you want to talk to me about vinyl records, movies, music, irreverent, let's just say trashy TV shows, fun stuff like that, you're going to go to TSP Total Entertainment. So I am looking out for you. I want to make your consumption of content easier and more enjoyable for you. Because if you're like me, you want to get on certain times and you just have food on your brain. You don't want to see any like political stuff. You just want to see people stir frying noodles or making a badass hoagie sandwich. I get it. So that's why go to Tossing Solid Podcast Hub. If you want to look around, see everything that we do, but if you want to kind of narrow things down, even sports. I'm big into the U.S. men's national team, talking Mizzou football, college football, SEC type stuff. If all you want is just sports, if all you want to do is see sports stuff that we talk about here, TSP Sports. I got you. I got you. Let me know what you guys think. I'm just doing my best. I'm trying to create a community of people that are just reasonable people. Let's have some fun. Let's have discussions when we can. And yeah, let me know what you think.